And we're back. Second time. Welcome. This is another episode of Question Star Movie Podcast. Welcome to everybody who's listening. My name is Hunter HJW. And this is a daily every two o'clock Monday. If you want to tune in, I'll be talking about some of the movies that I've been talking that I watched over the weekend. Talk about some other updates in the world of cinema. The mic is a little bit loose, but I can't do anything about that. We got a lot to talk about. Surprisingly, the strikes have ended, which is amazing. So movies can go back to the way they were, being promoted by actors and written by writers, which is amazing. We got some other movies to talk about, some new releases this weekend, some movies I didn't check out that were on streaming. A lot of anticipation for October to come out. Obviously, October is a big month for movies in terms of like if you want to talk about horror, there's some big movies releasing next month. We got a lot, and I finally reviewed Barbie. Have to, I had to see it. That's what I do. Plus, it's the biggest movie of the year. How can I not see it? Anyways, let's get into. Fix this real quick. If it's yeah, so let's get into the review. Let's get into the schedule of things to talk about. And let's get started. We got one. We got one more week of October, which is crazy. Or no, 1 week of September. It's the final week of September, which is crazy to think about. We've had a pretty interesting September. Still got some films to check out this weekend. A lot like Expendables 4, The Creator, which is my most anticipated, and Saw X, which two of those might suck, but the other one might be really good. And then October. There's a lot of things coming out in October that I feel like are going to be talked about a lot. So let me bring up the October movie schedule for this year. Again, these are scheduled to come out the next month. So let's get into the topic of some of the anticipation levels that I am at with some of these movies that I have right now. Let's get in with starting with October 6th. There's a lot that comes out on October 6th, but the movies that I will be looking forward to and hopefully talking to you about are Totally Killer and The Exorcist Believer. uh, the Totally Killer. Let's get into that. So this is a Amazon Prime original horror film by produced by Blumhouse. Stars uh, Kernan Shipka, Olivia Holt, Julie Bowen, and Randall Park. And it's pretty much about how mother's friends are murdered by a killer on Halloween, and so this daughter travels back in time to 1987, where she pairs up with her mom to stop the young would-be killer and get back to her timeline before she's trapped in the past forever. Sounds wacky, sounds silly, but it could be interesting. It could be like another Blumhouse film where it's like, oh, it's not taking itself seriously, but it works. I mean, just look at Maiden that came out in January, Mithridan, as I like to call it. And then the other one that's coming out, which I think is going to be the big one that weekend, is The Exorcist Believer. This is another one of these direct sequels to the original film, or requels, if I may, where they're taking a classic film and every sequel that came after that, they're kind of saying like, you know what? That doesn't matter. We're going to make it our own. And so a new team has come on to make Exorcist Believer. It's directed by David Gordon Green, which again, I'm not really. I don't think I'm interested because, well, I'm going to see it because it looks creepy, but I don't know if it's going to be good because the last films that this guy has directed, he handled the Halloween trilogy in such a poor way where he had a good run with the 2018 Halloween, which was amazing. It was a big film. It was a big box office, and then they started to notice a little bit of decline occurring with the Halloween movies, and then Halloween Ends, which was I think the most, which is I think is the most offensive of them all, got awful reviews, and these past two films have been streaming on Peacock, and so they haven't been as big of box office as do you think they would be. With this film, there's clearly an audience who wants to go see a new Exorcist movie. Obviously, the young generation is going to be like, oh, that looks creepy and scary, and not give really any fuss about the original Exorcist, which is one of the most cult classic horror films of all time, if not the most cult classic horror film. It's original. They're doing the thing, obviously, where they bring back an original character. In this case, Chris McNeil, portrayed by Ellen Burstyn. Once again, it's just this team that concerns me because they are doing another trilogy of films where it's like, oh, we're going to have a new trilogy. Yet, if the first one's good, don't do another one. Just stick to it. They already have a release date for the newest one. I believe it's called Exorcist Deceiver, which I don't know why they would do it. It comes out in April of 2025. Again, it's just like, why? Just see where this one goes. And if it's not as good, don't do it then. Just don't do it. That's all. You don't need to do it. October 13th, there really is nothing. On October 20th, there's Killers of the Flower Moon, which is a Martin Scorsese film that, again, a lot of people love Martin Scorsese. They absolutely love Martin Scorsese. He's one of the best directors working. Dude's on his game because he has made some great films. Some films that I would bet to be like, they're not as good as what people say they are. But what can you do? However, this film that premiered months ago at Cannes, it's already got like a 97 on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, it's insane. The movie is 3 hours and 27 minutes long, which tells you, like, this guy does not give any like, I can't say it here, but he does not care about how many times you gotta go to the bathroom because this is a long, long movie. 3 hours and 27 minutes is insanely long. It's not as long as I believe his other film, which was The Irishman, which I think it was like 3.5 hours long. But man, this thing, it's coming out in theaters, and then they said it's going to be released on Apple TV Plus for an unspecified streaming release. So we don't know. It was supposed to come out limited release and then go to Apple TV Plus in like 2 weeks from now. But I don't know. I really have no idea. Looks great. Again, cinematography, directing, character wise, Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio in the same movie. Um, John Lithgow, Brendan Fraser, Jesse Plemons. I mean, you got a huge stack of people in this film. That again, it could be long and boring, but the story is interesting. It's based off of the 2017 book of the same name. It centers on a series of Oklahoma murders in the Osage Nation during 1920s, committed after oil was discovered on tribal land. It's it's Scorsese doing what Scorsese does. What can you do? And then, if I may, oh, my bad. We have two other films that I believe are not mentioned here. One of them is a movie that I have not even heard of, but when I watched the trailer for this film, I was like, you know what? I think I'm interested in this one. And it's a horror movie called Appendage. It's on Hulu. And it pretty much goes about where we have this fashion designer struggles with the belief of self doubt, and these buried feelings start to make Hannah's physically sick and sprout into a ferocious growth on her body. And it's a horror movie, but I don't recognize anybody in this film, which tells you that it could be good or it could be not. Then we have a new movie. Then we have another film called Reptile, which is a movie on Netflix that's directed by Grant Cinder. It's about the brutal murder of a young real estate agent. A hardened detective attempts to uncover the truth in a case where nothing is as it seems, and by doing so, dismantles the illusions in his own life. Stars Benicio del Toro, Justin Timberlake, Alicia Silverstone. It's a very interesting movie. I don't know what's going to happen with it. It's on Netflix. Might check it out, might not, whatever. And then Pain Hustlers is a new. It's one of those save the date movies on Netflix where it's like a big film directed by David Yates, who directed some of the Harry Potter films, Legend of Tarzan. Pretty much, this guy has been directing a lot of big movies, and this is like a Netflix film. Yeah, ever since Order of the Phoenix, Half Blood Prince, Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2, Legend of Tarzan, Fantastic Beasts, the three of them. And that's it. He's pretty much directed only Harry Potter movies, and this is his first film since 1998 that he is directing something that's not Harry Potter, which can be interesting. Could be interesting. And it stars Chris Evans, Catherine O'Hara, Chloe Coleman, Emily Blunt, Andy Garcia. And the movie is about a high school dropout who lands a job with a failing pharmaceutical startup in Yellowing Strip Mall in Central Florida, where she soon finds herself at the center of a criminal conspiracy with deadly consequences, which could be interesting or whatever. And then finally, the one I think everybody's looking forward to the most this month or next month in terms of film is that of Five Nights at Freddy's, which clearly everybody knows what Five Nights at Freddy's is. If you're not familiar, it was an indie horror game that made waves. Markiplier is known best for making his walkthroughs of Five Nights at Freddy's, and they decided that for the longest time, this movie was in development hell for years. At one point, Christopher Columbus was supposed to direct this movie, but got dropped out. They had issues on the script and the costumes. So now it's being directed by somebody who I never heard of, Emma Tammy. It's being produced by Blumhouse and Scott. It's written by Scott Cotwin, who created the games. And the trailers look fine. But here's the thing. This movie's also on Peacock, which is the bad thing. See, and this is why day-to-day streaming should never happen. ever again, because from the moment it happens, it's like, oh, they're not doing it for box office success. They're just doing it because they know the movie stinks. I mean, like Firestarter sucked. Halloween Ends was another one that was on Peacock as well in theaters. Sucked. Halloween Kills was fine. But again, it's like we're past that where you don't need any streaming simultaneous day to date. If this movie was exclusively on Peacock, then okay, yeah, everybody's gonna get Peacock and it will be the biggest launch of all time. But like the scene is in theaters and streaming, so it's like, and it's and that's not true. They made the announcement this thing was going to be on streaming and theaters the moment they made a release date, so they knew they probably knew this movie. It's not good. Again, I could be totally wrong. It hasn't worked out. Again, it really depends on if the critics are really harsh on this one, if they find it too silly. It's PG-13, which I figured it was going to be PG-13. I mean, nothing about the game is R-rated other than the fact that it is scary. And I guess you can say R-rated is scary, but again, there have been plenty of PG-13 movies that have been scary, but none of them show blood and guts and gore. So like, I don't know why people complained at first where it's like, oh, it's R-rated. Why it's not R-rated? It doesn't need to be. It's PG-13. And people are going to go to the theaters for this. I might save up to get Peacock instead, watch this at home. That's right. Because I don't want to be afraid to spend money on a film that I know is not good, that I can watch. Because see, with Halloween Ends, I didn't know. Like, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to buy a ticket to see this movie in a theater. Having said all that, having shown my hatred for Halloween Ends on this podcast several times, it has not been the best. So I don't know about this movie. Again, it could be good. It could be a big hit. Like this movie could be the biggest horror movie of the year. It could make a lot of money, but again, it's like it has to depend on rewatchability, the fans, if the fans are going to show up, how they're going to feel. It all depends on that, and I don't know. I really don't know. So I might just watch this on Peacock and just like, you know what? I didn't spend money on it. I spend like $4 a month on Peacock, whatever. Fine, take my money. Doesn't matter. So if there's one movie I'm looking forward to this entire month, I would say it's Killers of the Flower Moon. And then I would say Exorcist Believer and then Five Nights at Freddy's. Again, it's like the big movies that are coming out this month. I have no idea. um damn. Crap, I don't know. My voice. Again, I don't know. So it really depends on like if this movie's gonna be good. Because again, that Peacock day-to-day thing, it's screwing me in the head about it. So there are 5 movies. Now we're going to get into the actual reviews of films. We have 5 movies to talk about. Let's get into all of them. Instead with the one thing, instead of into the thing that I'm here to talk to you about. And that is I finally, after months and weeks of people online, of people on Twitter, of people on YouTube, I've said, go check out Barbie. It's a must see. It's the best movie of the year. I went and saw Barbie for the IMAX experience release last weekend. I went to our local New Rochelle Burrito Rock. Oh, that sucks. And now I have seen all the reviews. Some have been great. Some of them have been in the middle. Actually, most of the people have been in the middle, but some have been really good. I have not seen a review that's been like, you know what, this is a fantastic film. It's one of the best movies of the year. I haven't. And I was like, all right, so maybe people are just too overhyping this movie. Having seen the film, I can safely tell you that I think some of the critics are wrong, some of the critics are right, and some of them are just borderline freaking insane. I think this is a good movie. This is a good movie. It's a good film. Um, what are some of the things I would say are good about this film? There's a lot. Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling have great chemistry with each other. They are the real like saving grace of this movie. Like their charisma, Margot Robbie especially, is fantastic. Where you can feel she was made for the role of Barbie. She plays stereotypical Barbie. Again, if you don't know the story of this movie, it pretty much is that stereotypical Barbie plays a good life in Barbie Land. She has a good good life, and she starts to realize that maybe she's having a midlife crisis, and so she goes to the real world to find the person that has been playing with her, and then it's gets crazy. But I understood the crazy. I thought like I was not going to expect or like anything crazy in this movie, but I was absolutely wrong. I did enjoy the crazy. It was fun. It was wacky. The jokes actually worked. You know, a lot of pop culture jokes. There's one joke in particular that I think pokes fun at a certain type of fan base out there that I thought was hilarious. Um, Margot Robbie is awesome in the movie. Again, like this movie was in development hell for years. At a point, Amy Schumer was supposed to be Barbie, which I'm glad that didn't happen. She is great in this role. Ryan Gosling as Ken brought the Kenergy. He was good in the film. Uh, and then there's some other people in here that are like there as like background characters. This is a big cast. I mean, you got John Cena portraying a merman. It's crazy. You got Dua Lipa, whew, portraying a mermaid. You have Will Ferrell as the head of Mattel. You have America Ferrera as a mother. Ariana Greenblatt as the daughter. You have Kingsley Benadier, who was just the villain in Secret Invasion, and who's now going to be playing Bob Marley in the upcoming biopic One Love. He was good. Emma Mackey from Stranger Things. A lot of the Stranger Things cast is in this film. Simu Liu, Kate McKinnon, Issa Rae. Like you have all these people in this film, and some of them are utilized really well, and then some of them are not so utilized. Like not at all. In fact, I would say they're barely in the film. Some of these characters, and then you have the amazing. The one thing I can't get over is the fact that the cinematography, the set pieces are incredible. They really took the time to make Barbie Land look great and real. And this budget was like 128 to 140 million dollars, which goes to show you they don't need like all this CGI background special effects. You know, you can just use practical uh like construction and building. It's just it works. It really works. So you don't need to spend like $300 million on a film. Um and then the jokes, the story, the elements of the emotions, the messages, I think fit. They work, you know, because it talks about patriarchy and talks about real life problems with women and men. And that was one I was like, I was nervous about. I was like, how are they going to tackle? And if they do it, are they going to do the Black Christmas thing? Because Black Christmas was a movie that where it was a fiercely feminist movie. The movie wasn't bad because it was a feminist movie. The movie was remaking a horror film from the late 1970s, and it failed to be a good remake. That's the problem. I think universally everybody hated it. So I was nervous, like, is this going to be one of those? And it's not. It's actually pretty good. And they handle the message good, but going into the negatives, they do hammer the message a little bit too much, which for some people that might be a little bit of a problem. They might want to watch a story instead of a message movie and preaching. And I don't have an issue with that. The issue I have was that they repeated like what I just said about like 40 times. So there's a issue there. Uh I would say I would say that the movie is a little bit like too long. It's 10 minutes too long. I feel like there's a scene or two that can be trimmed out. Also, the Will Ferrell, like I love Will Ferrell and everything he does, but he's not good. Like not good in this movie. He's kind of like an over the top cartoony villain of head of Mattel, and so like I thought, and I'm gonna repeat this from the Issa and Anthony's podcast. I thought that the Obi-Wan Kenobi chase sequence with Princess Leia was bad. This was awful. And watching it again on a stream, because I saw a clip online, but watching it again on a big screen, it was just bad. It just didn't work. It didn't work for me. It didn't work. Um, which is sad. So I think there's certain jokes also that don't land for me. Clearly they didn't land. I mean, I was the only one in the theater with my father, and then there was like two other people. But other than that, like most of the majority of the jokes, sometimes they didn't work. So if I'm grading this movie, what would I grade it? I would say I'm going to give Barbie a B plus. That was a good movie, and I recommend it. I would recommend this one. All right. With that down, let's move on to the next one, and that is Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, which was a film that released in April. I never got a chance to saw it or see it until it was available on Prime Video this weekend, and so I watched it, and this is a great movie. This is a movie about how a group of Marines have this translator who is Arabic or Lebanon something, and he's like a translator to the Taliban. And a mission goes wrong, and Jake Gyllenhaal plays this John Kennedy or John Flannery, who he's injured and he gets knocked out by these enemies. And so this guy, this translator, who's also a Marine fighter, helps him get back to his location, but gets back to the USA. And he's stranded there. So he goes back to help him and rescue him. And I thought this was an emotional movie. I thought this was a great war film. It understood how to deal with these real life events, but also tell a good story. Like the cinematography in this film is amazing. It was shot on real location, and the performances. Jake Gyllenhaal given a performance that I feel like is going to be underrated. Again, it all depends on how you view this movie, but his performance in this film is so damn good. He's really selling it, and it works. It works for this film. It works for the movie he's given. And I think he did a great job. Dar Salim is incredible. And I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. But Dar Salim Sahim, I'll look up this guy's name. Sorry. Dar Salim, yeah. This guy. Anthony Starr was great too. You guys probably know him as Homelander. He was great in the film. The action sequences were incredibly amazing and entertaining to watch. They weren't shaky cam, they weren't CGI, they were all awesome. The story of this guy who not a lot of people trusted because he's like, isn't he on the other side? But he's like, no, he's with us. And throughout the movie, when he's encountering these enemies, Dar Salim character, he's always constantly bombarded with like, you're a traitor, and it's like you feel that, you kind of feel that, like this guy who has been part of this his community is now suddenly fighting against his community, which is insane. I think that this guy did an incredible job. I think Guy Ritchie did a great job of tackling this story, which is unfortunate because the movie didn't make a lot of money. And that's sad. It's sad that the movie didn't make a lot of money. Um, but I thought it was amazing. I thought it was well acted, well shot, well written. If I were to be honest, I would say there's probably a section of this movie that kind of drags. And that's really about it. That's all I gotta say. So if I were to give a grade to the Covenant, I would go A minus. Next up is a new release that came out this weekend, as well as me seeing Barbie, me watching The Covenant. I watched No One Will Save You on Hulu. Now, this is a movie that I've heard nothing about. And then a teaser trailer premiere like 2 weeks before the film released. And like, it got my attention. Basically, is about how there are these home invasions. Like home invasions happen every year, but this one's different. And so this woman who played by Caitlin Denver, who has like a really traumatic past, she deals with this home invasion, and it's like aliens, but it's weird aliens. It's weird aliens. So she pretty much is the only one in the house. She has to deal with the fact that she is being bombarded by these aliens and she's got to fight against them. And I thought this was a very enjoyable film. Um like some of the issues I'll get into right now. Number one, I thought that the showing of the aliens too much was a really big disappointment. They could have hit it some more, but they didn't, which gets me, which is disappointing because sometimes in these movies you always hide what the creature is until the very end of the film, and they do that a lot. But this one they did it differently. And I don't know, something about the mystery of this movie got me interested. So I was like, all right, maybe you can hide them a little bit more. Number two, not a lot of characterization. I mean, we know that one of the main character, is shunned by society because she did something in her past, and that's good and all. But like, it would be nice, maybe if we have some character development with her, because by the end of the movie, she really doesn't learn a lot. I feel like, in my opinion, she doesn't really learn a lot. Another thing is, I feel like it's too short. It's like an hour and 30 minutes. It could have been like an hour and 40, an hour and 50. If given the right ending, because the ending of this film is not good. In my opinion, it completely falls flat. Where, you watch the ending and it's like, oh, I like that. I like what they did. And then it's just like, wait, huh? Like what? It kind of confuses you. And then it makes you wonder, like, wait, what? This is the ending that they decided to show with a home invasion movie? And it's stuff like that that just really concern me. Also, I would say the alien designs in terms of one of the alien designs was really not that good looking. They look like cliche aliens. You get a lot of the typical alien invasion cliches, all that kind of pizzazz. Um, in terms of positives, I would say the tensity and the atmosphere of this film works really well. Caitlin Denver is a fantastic standout. I would say another thing is that she's not phoning it in. And what's interesting about this movie is that there's not a lot of dialogue. In fact, I would say there's no dialogue, which works for for this type of movie because it's very like silent, it's very like unhinged. There's also a film that's similar to this though called The Quiet Place, and I think the one thing is that this movie like straight to the point. It's like this is what's happening. Like this is what we're doing. It's like, oh, okay, I understand now what's going on. But that ending really cost this movie a lot of points. So with this film, I would say, what am I going to give this one? A B minus. A B minus. It was good enough. Wouldn't watch it again. It's fine. Now, let's get into the not so good films that I watched, and let's start out with Black Demon. With the Black Demon. So, if you don't know what the Black Demon is, it's pretty much about this Mexican folk tale about a shark. And in this movie, we have Josh Lucas, who portrays a dad with his family visiting in this area in Mexico, and this he works for this company that has an oil rig that's in the middle of the ocean, and this oil rig has been abandoned. Like no one's there, but except for these people who are like, "What are you doing here? You shouldn't be here." And it's like, wait, why? Because there's a monster out there, and soon to behold, it's the Black Demon. And most shark movies know they're a bad shark movie because they kind of play in on it, when they're trying to act serious and silly, but they kind of know it's silly, like the Sharknado movies. Black Demon is a movie like Meg 2 is trying to take itself way too seriously, and it doesn't work out in the end. Like the movie is full of people just like arguing with each other, a lot of loud conversations, and just a bunch of decisions that don't work. Like the whole basis of reason why the family is, in the first place, by default is because like the mother is harassed by someone, and then she brings her family on this boat ride that's like, I can't take you, ma'am. It's like, no, please, I have cash. And he's just like, get on. And so right there it's like, what? And then the movie doesn't look good. The CGI for the shark is really noticeable. The explosions that happen in this movie, or like the shark trying to bite someone. There's a scene where a shark is biting midair a boat, and you can tell it's all digital. It's so fake. And it's just a boring movie. Like, I don't know why. It's just a boring mess of a film. And like I have no idea. You have a star like Josh Lucas. I mean, the acting's fine and all, but it's like it's not like the best acting where you can argue like, oh, it's supposed to be dumb shark fun, but you don't really get the shark that much. That's the problem. You don't get the shark, and it pisses you off. It makes you angry that you just watched an hour and 40 minutes of a movie that's more or less dealing with human drama rather than a shark, an old Mexican shark. So That one I didn't like. That's unfortunate. On a scale, I'm going to give The Black Demon a D. It's not a good film. Um, it's not really a good movie either. And then finally for the reviews, um, we have a movie called Love Again. So the concept alone of this movie makes no sense. So I'm going to tell you what it's about. So the concept of this movie is that we have this girl played by Priyanka Jones, who's married to Nick Jonas, and she is in a relationship. She's about to get proposed to when her husband dies, and she still has his name on her contacts, and she never deleted them. And so she's sending these texts to someone. Like somebody is actually getting these texts, and it's like um she finally finds, or the guy's in a rocky area in his job helping to interview Celine Dion. And the girl is kind of like an author of these children books. And so the two really don't mash up. And then one of them's like the guy is like, I'm receiving these texts from this person. First of all, technologically, it makes no sense because how will you still be receiving texts from somebody that you don't know and their number is not disconnected? Like, that's crazy. They would immediately contact the Apple or iPhone, whoever, whatever phone it was, and be like, no, we're going to take this name off the air. So technologically, the movie makes no sense. Story wise, the movie makes no sense. Acting wise, I would say the movie is average acting. I mean, Priyanka Jones is fine. Sam Houston's fine, but in the end, it's just like a movie. It's another one of these romance movies we've seen before multiple times. There's really nothing too spectacular with them, which is crazy. But I do think that this is a better love movie than My Fault. Number one, you have actual better actors and better writing, even though writing still sucks. And I would say it's not crazily stupid. But again, it's just a boring Netflix rom-com or a movie that was released in theaters. It's now on Netflix. It's a boring rom-com that doesn't really do anything to the genre, and so like I didn't find it very interesting. So on a scale of one to, or on the grade scale, again, I'm going to go with a D. It's not really that good. So I think I have all the reviews done. Also, the strikes are done. The writer's strike is over. Both sides have reached to an agreement. The deal is done. We can rejoice. Movies are going back to the way they were, written by people, not by AI, and actors can promote their films the way they wanted to. Because if anything, movies needed to have this month, or these last couple of weeks, movies have needed their films to be promoted. People needed their films to be promoted. Just ask Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle bombed in the box office because nobody cared. Sorry, and you may think that's wrong to say, but the actors chose to do this, so they kind of screwed themselves. And now shows and TV and film can go back to writing and making movies, going back to filming their films. So Deadpool 3 hopefully releases in May of next year. Hopefully that happens. And I probably won't be around here to review that film because that'll be my senior year. So that's crazy. That's insane. Um, but again, this was a 5-month journey. Writers stood by and it lasted for 5 months and it's over. Everybody who was nervous about the fact that writers are not getting paid, it's over. Writers are going to get paid now. This cannot happen again. Studios delayed their movies So now Craven's now delayed to August, and the strikes are over. So what are you gonna do now, Sony? Dune was just delayed to March 2024. So what are you gonna do now, Warner Brothers? What are these people gonna do? Nothing. They can't do anything because they just pushed their movie back a couple of freaking months because of the strikes, and now they can't do anything. So it's like, oh, we're gonna move our film back to our. Now you can't do that. That doesn't work like that, honey. It doesn't work like that. So I'm glad the strikes are over. Hopefully, the actors are going to go back to what they're doing. They should be. They should be. Hopefully, they are. I'm nervous for that. But I think that's going to do it for me. I have everything I needed to say in a quick amount of time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you did tune in, my name is Hunter West. Tune in next time or next week when I talk about hopefully some other films. It'll be a surprise. At the end of the month, I might do a best and worst of September video. So yeah, that's gonna happen. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Western Star Movie Podcast. This has been HJW, and I'm signing off right now.